Senator Brockman.
Great, thanks. And my colleagues have covered a part of the area I wanted to go to, but particularly for RAAus, if I'm saying that correctly, I just want to raise a couple of things in your response to CASA on this issue. And, you know, I admit they do sort of raise red flags in my mind, and I'm with Senator Sterle that we want to see the fairest and least burden possible to achieve the safety outcomes. But, you know, in your response you said one of the issues, what are the likely cost implications? That there is a direct cost to RAAus, particularly significant loss of revenue if medical requirements are reduced. This could mean that recreational pilot's licence requirements will have a direct advantage over RAAus pilot certificate. And you go on to say this could result in a dramatic effect on the financial position of RAAus. Can you talk us through your discussions with CASA in regards to that particular aspect of the changes? Did CASA take that into account? Did CASA tell you they took that into account?
You mean the potential for a relaxation of CASA's medical standards to impact RAAus' financial position? Is that
yes,
the question?
The potential on any changes to the recreational pilot's licence to directly impact your financial position.
So the recreational pilot's licence is something that CASA introduced 4 or 5 years ago, and it's quite comparable with the RAAus pilot certificate. In fact, CASA has publicly stated that the training requirements, that RAAus training is acceptable for the issue of a recreational pilot's licence. But it's a CASA issued licence and requires pilots to fly under CASA's regime with certain constraints. RAAus didn't see a great deal of value for pilots in that regime when it was introduced, and that was our position, remains our position. There also there hasn't been a great uptake by pilots themselves going for the RPL versus either a PPL, which is the next licence up in the CASA regime, or an RAAus pilot certificate. So RAAus does have concerns, or did have concerns, that relaxation of medical standards in the CASA regime could impact the number of pilots who would prefer that approach to our approach. So that was the basis for that statement to CASA. That document you've quoted from was a response to a CASA consultation paper.
Yep.
And other than submitting that response, I'm not aware that there have been any discussions with CASA about the potential for their prospective relaxation of medical standards to affect RAAus.
So I must admit I'm reasonably new to this place. I've been here a year now. Definitely new to this sector. Is RAAus a net contributor to CASA? Do you receive money from government? How does it all work?
So RAAus, as with the other SAOs, receives a certain amount of funding from CASA to perform functions under a deed of agreement, safety-related functions. The funding we receive from CASA in no way approaches the cost of performing those functions. Our estimate is that roughly 70% of the RAAus budget, which is about 2.8 million a year, so 70% of that goes on performing functions under the deed of agreement with CASA. The funding we get from CASA equals about 4% of our budget.